I'm official, that name tag. Welcome. Hope you're all West Jordan residents, are you?
I would hope.
I would hope so too. So we have consultants here who helped us design our traffic plan for West Jordan. And we're going to be taking it to the council soon for them to adopt it. But this is exciting because as the city grows, our transportation is even more critical. And something that I thought of, or kind of brought attention to me, when I go skiing at Alta, I get on 90th South and I head east until I get to Alta. So 90th South goes from mountain, or will, by time it's done, go from mountain to mountain. Isn't that pretty cool? And then 7800 South goes from mountain to 6th Street. And then 70th South, if you didn't have the airport in there, that would also go mountain to mountain. You could go all the way up to Pride. So that's our east-west main things. 6200 South stops at Redwood Road, however you catch 215, and then you get off that direction and goes to 111 the other way. So those are our major east-west corridors. East-west is a challenge for our city. So we pass that challenge on to our consultants. You'll come and see some of the ideas they go help with those. Our major north-south start with U111, also known as Backus Highway. Then we've got Mountain View Corridor, which we're really glad the city put that in, which we pushed really hard for several years. It's helped us a lot. We've got Bangitter Highway, which is really helpful, and especially with the interchange improvements that they did. Now, Mountain View Corridor, they planned those interchange improvements without having to do more takings. So it won't be as rough as Bangitter West when they do those improvements. And then we've got Redwood Road, which is our major north-south. So we're, with that grid system put together, that's what they had to work with. And then you'll see other streets that pull off of those to tie it together. And I want to welcome our staff who is here, who's working a lot there. We've got Nestor. So if you came to this meeting before with our other traffic meetings, you hadn't met Nestor. He's only been here how many months? 18 months. He's doing a great job. Nestor didn't do most of this work. He gave information. Our consultants did, who we hired to do that. So we've got these trained professionals who understand traffic. And I also asked them to keep in mind active transportation, because that is getting more important. And the federal government, the state government is getting more money into those areas. And we want those to be good. And the more people use active transportation, the less people drive and cause traffic problems. So that'll be good. And we've got some big PowerPoints. It's a PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, if we had to do it over again, would you put stock in the PowerPoint? I don't know. Maybe Zoom before 2020. Either way. So we've got some PowerPoints here. So the consultants are with WCG. And they've done stuff for us in the past that are very good to work with. And so if you have questions as it goes along, feel free to ask them questions. And even though they're really smart and they're engineers, they will talk on our level and help us understand this. So thank you. And all the rest of our staff who is here, they put it in there. Our communication people, Marie is here, and our other engineers who are all here to help support it. So I don't want to take any more time because you guys really want to get into the traffic. And I hope you didn't get stuck in traffic on the way here. By the way, when we're driving here, we were the traffic, so we were the problem. But now we're here, we're not trying to do it. Awesome. Hey, Jordan, take it away.
Awesome, thank you, Mayor. My name is Jordan King. I've been the public engagement and outreach specialist for this project. Before I get going, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We are recording the meeting so that this can be posted later. For anyone that wasn't able to attend, or if you want to go back and review something, that is available to you. And then we will also answer Q&A. If you are joining us online, there's a Q&A feature where you can type in your question and we'll answer that as we make time throughout the presentation, but we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the official presentation tonight. The other thing, as I talk about how you interact online, is using that Q&A for comments, questions. There's a chat function. We turned it off, but you can still send chats to the hosts and the panelists. So if you have a question or you want to say something, but you don't want to be an official Q&A part of it, you can still send a message in that way. We're going to try and answer all of the questions as we can tonight, but if your question isn't answered or we run out of time, please send us the questions anyway. There's a comment form that we'll point to later where you can make comments and ask questions, and we'll still answer those as part of the official summary. So you can come back and look at it and see those questions answered if we don't get a chance to answer it live. So I'm going to take us back a few months and talk about a survey. So when we do a transportation plan like this, we really care about not only the data that our engineers are seeing and they're able to pull from different sources, but we also want to hear from residents, and we care what people think because you're the ones driving these streets every day, you're the ones out in the community, and you see things that aren't always captured by that data that we can pull from all of those sources. So we launched a survey at the end of last year, and we had that run until February. We had over 700 responses to the survey, which is a huge win, 707 responses. That's an astronomical number. It's the best I've ever seen. A verifiable survey that says that we have taken a significant amount to feel that we've reached like quantifiable, verifiable data is like 383, I think is the number for the size of West Jordan. So we have more than double that. So this, or close to double. I will ask an engineer later. So a couple of key points, 98% of respondents, they live in West Jordan. We open this up to also people who work in the city or just are traveling through the city. 49.43% of West Jordan residents are from the Southwest. So that's quadrant C here. We ask people to verify kind of where they live about. We had 145 people respond. We first opened the survey at the end of last year. We had a few responses as that continued. We did a few pop-up events at Jordan Landing and at the West Jordan Library to kind of catch people on their feet. And then we sent postcards out in January. And then we had a few more trickle in at the very end in February. So lots of really great responses there. One of the questions we asked was, what type of mode of transportation do you use? Mostly we saw that people are driving alone, but there are people who take other sources, tracks, front runner, carpooling, walking. We had a large portion who aren't using the bus, as you know, or maybe you don't know. There's not huge amounts of bus service in the Southwest quadrant. That's something that we're working with UTA to look at all of the different options, and that's part of their big long-term planning. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And I already said 77% of our respondents drive alone. So what are some of the other factors that people care about? The biggest thing we saw was travel time, ease of use, and convenience were our top three. This is what people are looking for when they're selecting their mode of transportation. So this is a quote from one of our open-ended questions. Safety and convenience outweigh environmental impact. I might walk or bike more if there were more safe trails that linked places of importance to me. So this goes towards what the mayor mentioned when we first started, looking for active transportation options within the city where people have access to trails, bike access that make it safe and convenient for people to use. So we looked at also destination hotspots. 54% of residents most frequently travel to their job for their destination. And then 31% do not often travel to transit or other connections. So those are kind of high-low. The other high pieces we saw were shopping, dining and entertainment, and social and personal. The biggest traffic concern is congestion. East-west traffic congestion is particularly a problem we have. This is something that we're aware of. The data that we're looking at already sees that. So that's confirming what we already know. And then it says, often they just fill in, oh, this was a concern about safety. So often they just fill in holes on our roads. The next year, those repairs often come out. So you're gonna be seeing more road construction and repair work. That's a priority in the city this year as well. So some of that's being addressed. Some of the other top concerns here, other than congestion, were safety and air quality. So this was a word cloud. We asked what most common concerns are, but we left this very open-ended. We wanted people to not just go through a click box, but really tell us what they were thinking. So some of the things that we saw a lot of were too much construction, lack of east-west connection, bike accessibility and safety. So those are the words that are the biggest, or things that got pulled into that word cloud. So the way that these work is whatever shows up the largest would have the most responses with those words in them. But you can see that there are other conditions like road conditions, speed limit, noise, access to public transit. So these are all things that we're looking at addressing as part of the plan. Improvement goals. So people wanted to see sidewalks, road striping, and pavement were the top 3 improvement goals that residents wanted to see within the city. We talked a little bit about safety concerns. The largest area that people are worried about that were at intersections along 78 South and sidewalk access points. We talk a little bit more about traffic congestion. They include places like Jordan Landing, Baker Highway, any left turns, 900 South. So this is stuff that our data is already telling us and is again being confirmed by our residents. So what we're doing with the results is we compiled all of this into data. I took it, I handed it over to our engineering team. They were already collecting data from other sources and they started putting together a plan. And that's what they're going to be presenting and talking through a little bit tonight. And if you have any questions, again, hang on to that about the survey. We'll answer some questions in just a little bit, but with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy and the team from WCG to talk us through the project.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah. Let me just pull this story.
Yeah, please do. So while he's pulling that up, my name is Jeremy Searle. I'm the consultant project manager with WCG. And one of the things that we put together for the public to make it easy to walk through and understand was this story map. So it's a website that is used to show, easily map transportation projects and things like that. So we'll go through it today. This condenses all of the relevant information from the Transportation Master Plan in a really easy to use story map or website. And I think it's much easier than having to read through an 80-page document. So hopefully this is a little better. So Jordan, if you're gonna scroll for me, let's go down just a little bit. And you can see at the top here, we've got this menu. If you have something in particular you want to look at, you can go directly there, or you can just scroll through the whole thing. The first thing we want to talk about is actually the open house, which is right now. And public comments on this are open till May 10th. So if you come down here, you can actually click and put a pin or a marker on the map and say, hey, I'm really concerned about this intersection or about this roadway. And right below this is you can type your comment and say, hey, at this intersection, I see these types of problems, right? And then it'll capture that with your pin or your marker on the map. So please use that. It's open, like I said, until May 10th. So it's a good opportunity to gather more feedback and make sure that we've addressed everything. As we continue through, this is kind of the introduction. We've got the city here. Let's go down to the map. And then the future annexation area. So there's still a lot of West Jordan to grow into the future, right, out on the west side. And the west side is a big focus of our transportation master planning because that's growing so quickly. Jordan's done a great job already of talking about public involvement. You can click on this link and see all those results that he just talked through. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that.
Going back to the annexation, what is the ETA on that actually happening?
Yeah, great question. So that's owned by Rio Tinto. We've met with them several times. Not anytime soon.
Like 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 50 years?
30.
20, 30. They don't give an exact timeline,
Gone by then.
but it's a long time in the future. Yeah, they plan to continue mining and stuff, so. Okay. All right, next thing, one of the big things that we heard, both in the data and from the public, is safety, right? That's important to the community. And so we did a good safety analysis through here. Here's our heat map, and then all these maps up in the upper right-hand corner, you can actually make it full screen there. So just for example, oh, you did it, perfect. So you can make it full screen, and you can zoom in and out with plus minus here if you want to look closer at things. But this is a heat map, and you can see where these crashes are occurring, right? And it shouldn't surprise anyone that they're happening on the busiest roadways. Yeah,
This is over what time frame? Last?
this is the last 5 years. Yeah, we didn't use, we looked at 2023 data and into 2024, but that hasn't been verified, meaning they're still QCing it or checking it to make sure all the data is accurate. And so in the crash database. So that's why it's not officially listed here for 2023, but we did look through that as well. Okay, so this next map is the fatal and serious injury crashes. These are the ones that are the most concerning, right? Because someone either passed away or was seriously injured enough that that dramatically changes their life, right? And so we want to prevent those, right? 0 fatalities is a huge goal. And so quite a few crashes through here over the last 5 years, and that's concerning. You'll see in a minute, we've got some statistics. West Jordan, compared to the surrounding cities, actually does have a higher crash rate. When you compare it to like South Jordan, Taylorsville, you can see the number of crashes and then the percent of those crashes that are severe. So severe is that fatal or serious injury crash. And so, like I said, that is concerning. And so we went through and we made recommendations for numerous safety improvements through here. But the city has also been really proactive on this, doing a lot of things as well. They actually just commissioned another study looking at safe streets. Nestor's kind of heading that up with Krista and doing a great job with that. And so they're looking at safety on roadways and how to improve that, control speeds, things like that. So the city's been really proactive about that. And I think that's a really great thing. Yeah.
Do we have any more? I guess this would be kind of interesting to see a breakdown of like lane miles per city, because when you compare West Jordan and Midvale, they're very different. Like West Jordan and Murray, for example. I'd be curious to see
You're right.
crashes per lane miles might be a little more.
Yeah, yeah, it's called the crash rate, right? And we looked at those as well. So that's
Is West Jordan still 3 times worse than everybody else?
it's still higher. I don't know if it's exactly 3 times, but it's still higher. Yeah. Okay, Jordan, let's keep going.
We just had a quick question, Jeremy, sorry. As we're talking about some of these crashes, is that just vehicles or is that including pedestrian and bike?
Yeah, it includes both pedestrians and bikes. And we did a separate analysis for pedestrian and bike crashes. And I've identified a few locations where those are occurring too. Because those are important, right? Pedestrian crashes in particular are skewed much more towards serious crashes, right? Pedestrians often lose in an auto. So anyway, yes, we look very closely at those. Another big focus of this plan was to make sure that it's multimodal, right? We don't want to just focus only on roadways because that's not going to solve everything. And so we looked at transit, and this is the existing transit that's out there. You can see Jordan kind of look at that. So these orange dots are the bus stops or transit stops. And then we've got, of course, tracks running through the red line. The blue is bus routes. And then we have a frequent service bus route you can see on part of Redwood there. So there's some decent service through West Jordan. I think we all feel it could probably be even better, right? And so that's something that we feel is really important. So looking into the future, we've got a couple master plans here that we rely on as well for the transit. So if you scroll down to the next map, there is the UTA long range plan, and then there's the WFRC plan. So WFRC is it's called Wasatch Front Regional Council. That's the planning organization for the whole area, okay? And so they look at things from a region perspective. And so they make long-range plans, and then UTA, of course, has their own long-range plan. So you can see that WFRC is looking kind of high level here. We've got the future BRT or bus rapid transit on 5600 West.
There'll be express bus.
Express bus, yeah, thank you. That's coming soon. In fact, the RFP for that design just got released. And so they're working on the design here shortly, and you'll see that implemented in the next couple of years here. So that'll be a real benefit. And that'll go all the way up to the airport. So that'll give you convenient access up to that. Also, east-west route on 78. And then, yeah, if we look at the UTA side, you can see they've got some additional improvements in there as well. And you can, if you're looking at this on your own, you can always click on these routes to get more information. And there's, yeah, thank you, there's our legend.
Are they doing anything with the frequency of the routes? And
They-
or the time? Because like, I mean, personally, I use tracks, but the bus to get me to tracks runs till like, commute time, and it stops.
Yep.
And so if you want anything after dinner, forget it.
So that is a focus for UTA. UTA has been having challenges staffing drivers. And so they're working through that, but that is a focus for them, is to increase frequency and better service. But I can't speak for them exactly.
No, well, that'd just be a suggestion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
To run it longer.
absolutely. The other thing I just want to mention with transit before we move away from that is, once again, the city's been really proactive about this. And they have partnered with other cities in the Southwest quadrant, because we know that the Southwest quadrant of Salt Lake County is underserved for transit, right? If you look at West Jordan, South Jordan, Harriman, Bluffdale, that are, West Jordan, I think, has the most of those cities, but the further south you go, there's very little transit down there, right? And so they've partnered together, and they're doing what they call a fresh look at the transit usage through this area. So they're once again being proactive and looking at ways they can improve that. Okay, active transportation, as the mayor said, this is a huge priority, and the mayor's been awesome to help encourage that as we look at this. This is actually a map from the previous active transportation plan, which was just done a couple of years ago. And so the city already had a really good plan for active transportation. And so we built on that. We used that for our base, because like I said, it's not that old. And then we're adding some additional recommendations. Things like rail trails in the west, and looking at crossings of key roadways, right, to make those safer. So those are some additional recommendations, the things that we're looking at there. The other things we're doing is with our cross sections, so our roadways, we're making sure that we have bike lanes on those, plan trailways that parallel those, so that when we build or make improvements to roadways, they have those active transportation components built into those bike lanes and trails. All right, let's go down a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about travel demand modeling. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but this is part of the analysis that we go through when we do a transportation master plan. Okay, and what we do is we work really closely with the city's planners and with WFRC, and we look at the city's general plan, zoning plan, future land use plan, and we look at their future development, things that have been turned in or planned, to make sure that we understand what type of growth is coming here, okay? And we know of several pretty big developments, right? Ivory's got some big ones out on 90th to the west, Gardner, and several others that we talked to. And we program all this information into a region-wide model, okay? So it's not just West Jordan, it's the whole Wasatch Front. And we refine it really closely for West Jordan and the surrounding cities to make sure that it accurately represents what's going on here, so that we can see what kind of traffic is on the roadways now and how that will change in the future as the area grows, okay? So this is our existing, and I just want to point out, you'll see these numbers on here, like here's an 8. That doesn't mean there's 8 cars on the roadway, it means there's 8,000 cars on the roadway that day, okay? So these are in thousands.
So the big one right where your hand is, we're looking like 9 million.
Seems a little bit low, honestly. Yeah, 90 is south, yeah, we got millions of cars there every day. No, it's big numbers, right? Which is why you see it's this dark red, okay? It's failing, right? There's so many cars there that it's over capacity. And I don't think that would surprise anyone that's driven 90th, right? Similar up here, 70th, 78th. So this is existing, okay? Let's start to look into the future. So Jordan, if you click the arrows in the upper right, here you go. So this is 10 years out, okay? So this is 2033. And we have this slider in the middle, okay? So you'll notice here on the left, this says no build. That means if we didn't do anything, what would happen, okay? So he slides that over so you can see. If we didn't do anything, we get a lot of failing roadways. We get some dark red and several issues right through here of things that are failing, okay? And so this helps us understand, okay, these are areas we need to concentrate on and find solutions for. You'll notice, Mayor brought this up, east-west travel is a challenge, right? And again, I don't think anyone's surprised by that. If you look at the city, we've got, when you look at north-south, we've got U111, we've got Mountain View, 5600, right? We can go all the way through the city and find big routes, Bangerter, Redwood, right? 13th West, I-15. There's a lot of ways to go north-south. If you want to go east-west in the city, you're pretty limited, right? You've got 90th, 70th, and 78th, right? And 78th doesn't connect to I-15. And 70th stops at the airport. So that's tough. All right, so let's, slide that to the left. This is our build scenario, right? You'll see it gets better. We see a lot more green. That's because of the list of projects that we've recommended to help improve some of this. Yeah.
Just a side comment, for those that are colorblind, this is a really hard one to see because I can see like the yellow, I can see the black, and then the red and green are identical. So just a comment for those who are colorblind.
That is a good comment. That's a great comment.
All my comments are great comments.
But that one is special.
Can you click on one of those roadways?
Is there a humility slider or something?
So this isn't a great long-term solution, but a short-term solution to that is you can click on these links and you can get some information from them as far as the capacity and stuff like that. We should probably fix some of those labels so it's easier to remember. But there's a lot of data there that we can.
Level of service, daily volume.
Right.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So, okay, let's go to the next map if you don't mind, Jordan. Okay, then we also, so that's 10 years, right? And that is important because that's our phase one. That's our first thing we're going to focus on is phase one, and that's what the city can charge impact fees for. So we'll come back to that in a bit. This is future 2050. So now we're looking long term, right? Okay, and similar thing, we've got a no build and then our build that we can look at. And again, if we did nothing, we see a lot of failing roadways. And then if you slide that back over, Jordan, with our list of improvements, it gets a lot better. 90th still has some issues because that's our one big east-west loop. All right, so let's go down and let's look at projects for a second here. So what are we gonna do? How are we gonna address some of these issues, okay? You'll notice these are split up into phases. So we've got phase 1, 2, and 3. The dates are here. So phase 1 is the next 10 years, okay? So these are the projects that the city's gonna be focusing on in the next 10 years. Those are important. And then phase 2 in blue and phase 3, that one's out to 2050. So those are really long term. You'll notice in red, which is phase 1, again, we're focused on these east-west routes. So 90th south, getting widened, right, to 7 lanes. 78th, widening there, as well as 70th. Right now, we've got that lane imbalance. So we have 2 lanes, one direction, one the other. That's a project to fix that. So we have 2 lanes each direction. Fix that. We also see some new roadways out here in the west. in the near term. There's a lot of development pressure happening out there, and there's gonna be a need for collectors and arterials out here. Longer term, in phase 2, you see Mountain View Corridor turning to a freeway. That's a UDOT project. Their first part of that will actually be to the south. That'll turn to a freeway first, and then the next phase will be up through West Jordan. And then phase 3 is those longer term projects. So let's, oh,
I'm here.
I just needed to get it. You disappeared.
Just a question for you.
Yes.
There's a lot more room to be able to build out on the west side. It's not all filled in at this point, whereas the areas that most residents are in right now are going to be impacted directly by construction that's going to take place in their neighborhoods. Plus, also perhaps the need of eminent domain to go in and take some of the property so that the expansion can take place. How is that being formulated and planned for?
It's a great question. That's a challenge, right? It always is a challenge. So I guess a few thoughts on that. One, we're trying to make sure that the west side is planned adequately so that the roads are built big enough to accommodate that, so they don't go through that pain in the future. So that's a big part of it. 2, there likely will be some disruptions, right? There's gonna be construction, there's gonna be maybe some strip takes along the roadways, if we have to add a lane, things like that. So that's just part of transportation planning. And I know that's hard, right? It's never fun. But we plan for that, we cost estimate for that, so we're planning for that. And then we can talk about impact fees as well. So impact fees are meant so that new development pays the cost of their impact to the roadways, right? So it's called an impact fee. And so we put together a capital facilities plan as part of this transportation master plan. So that's all the projects and their costs and the phasing and all that. The next step, which the city plans to do, is to then calculate what percentage of those projects is impact fee eligible. And that's an analysis that we go through to determine how much of that is due directly to new growth or new development. And then we take that percentage of the total cost of these improvements and divide that out by all the new growth that's expected over the next 10 years and charge them that fee when they come. So when a new house is built, they are charged an impact fee of, whatever that is. And I can't remember the city's current fee, 1,800-ish. I can't remember off the top of my head, but for discussion's sake, let's say it's $1,800 a house, right? So they would pay that when that new house is built, and that goes into the city's impact fee fund to help fund these new improvements. Okay, so this is a similar map, but instead of by phase or timeline, right? It's actually by type of project. So the blue is the widening, so we talked about some widening on 90th, 78th. The green is operational improvements, so that's not widening, that's not impacting neighbors or anything like that. It's actually making improvements to the roadway, like signal timing improvements or turn pockets or other things that we can do to help traffic flow through there. Sometimes access management things, right? So the traffic moves rather than getting stopped all the time along the corridor. New construction is shown here in red here on the west side. All right, so that's by type project. So let's go to the next map, Jordan. So then we look at intersections, right? Intersections are often the pain points for roadways, right? You can get down the roadway pretty good until you hit a signal or you hit, some type of stop sign or intersection that you have to wait. So we want to make sure that these are operating smoothly and have the right intersection control here. And so we've identified quite a few intersection improvements, whether those are doing adding turn pockets or adding a signal or a roundabout or some other type of improvement to make sure that people can get through those intersections safely. And so again, these are broken up by phase. So red is the first phase, next 10 years. And so you can see those when you click on it. For example, this intersection is a new roundabout here on the west side. So you can click those and see what those are. And then you've got blue for phase 2 and purple for phase 3. If we go to the next map, it may be easier to see the intersection types. So you can see those here. So we've got red for new roundabouts, blue for new signals. And we've got a whole bunch here. So like high teens or intersection improvements, railroad crossing, got some bridge replacements, so different, all sorts of different types of intersection improvements. Yeah.
Having almost been killed today at a roundabout by somebody blowing through the thing. I know there are traffic engineers, wet dreams, they're dangerous as hell. And especially for pedestrians, because people blow through, they don't stop. And
So the studies don't necessarily
what's that?
That's an enforcement issue.
agree with that,
Well,
yeah.
I'm not gonna argue, they could pay for the whole city if they just fine people for running stop signs and red lights, but they just blow through them because it's to keep traffic flowing.
They do, so that they're efficient because they keep traffic flowing. But they also, if you look at the studies, the statistics, they actually reduce crashes pretty significantly. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And I know this is always,
I'm more worried about pedestrians than I am people. And Denmark removed all the stop signs and red lights from a town, and things stopped dramatically because everybody slowed down. So
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, it's a good question. So studies have shown, and this is nationwide and in Utah, okay? that when you put in a signal, crashes go up. When you put in a roundabout, crashes go down, way down. And the severity of crashes goes way down. So at roundabouts, there's far fewer conflict points. And the ones that you do have are shallow angle kind of bumper crashes, right? Whereas at signals, they're higher speed T-bone crashes. So you get higher severity.
Back
And
to enforcement.
enforcement is an issue, right? That's true anywhere, right? Whether that's West Jordan or nationwide, right? People don't always follow the speed limits. People don't always follow crash or laws, right? Safety for pedestrians at roundabouts. Crash statistics also show crashes for pedestrians go down at roundabouts. But I agree that that is a concern because people don't stop at roundabouts, they flow, right? And so some of the things that we recommend for those is adding what we call rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or the pedestrian signs with the flashers on them. And so when you come up, you can push the button and it alerts the drivers that there's pedestrians there so that they will stop and yield to pedestrians as they cross. A benefit for pedestrians at roundabouts is that they only have to cross one lane at a time. They have those center islands. So you can focus on one lane of cars coming at you, say, okay, I'm clear, make it to the center of their island, and then do it again for the next lane.
You can do that with all lanes too. Okay.
So good question. Okay, let's go here. Okay, so this is the existing roadway network. You can look on here and see all the signals and all the roundabouts in the city. And you can also see the functional class. So we've got major arterials in green, minor arterials, collectors in red. So you can see all those. This is what the network looks like now. And then if we go to the next map, this is our future network. So this is how we anticipate it to grow. So you can see future signals and roundabouts shown, as well as functional class, so collectors and arterials here on the map. And let's go to the last one. And if you can click on this map, Jordan, please. So this map is really meant for you as the public to explore, as well as city staff, right? So this is an interactive map, and it has the whole city here, and it's got all the layers in the legend. Hopefully they'll turn on here. So you can see the eyeball, if it's on or off. You can turn on any of these different layers and see and add them on top of each other, right? So you've seen all these different maps, they're kind of separate. But if you want, you can say, well, I want to see the UTA existing routes along with all the intersection control. So I know where the signals and roundabouts are, right? And so you can turn those on and off, you can zoom in and out, so you can see what you're looking for in the master plan. So this is meant to be useful for you to kind of make your own map, turn on and off what you want to, and zoom in and out. And that's kind of the end of the story map there. But I guess to close up, we've done a lot of work on this, a lot of analysis, got a lot of feedback from the public, which we really appreciate. We've really tried to address the concerns that we heard, as well as the data that we found as far as congestion and safety issues and things like that. So we've got a lot of planned projects, a lot of improvements in here that you can look at in more detail. We're happy to answer questions, and we've really enjoyed working with the city on this. It's been a really great project. Yes.
So I assume there's some degree of tension between what the state wants and what, West Jordan wants. And since most of the major highway, I think all the major highways are state highways, ultimately what they want is what would, I'd assume, prevail.
It's a great question. So like 90th South is a state route, right?
Yeah, or Redwood.
And Redwood, correct. So 90 South, we show a need for widening that to 7 lanes. The state does as well. And we are on the same page there as for when those should occur and why. So our plans align with the state and that. So
Okay, but take for example, Redwood Road.
yes,
The state wants people to have to be free flowing. But what I want to go do is cross Redwood close to where I live so that I can get to the bus stop.
yeah.
It's very unsafe to cross, mid-block, and these blocks are, a mile long sometimes, so.
It is. You're right, and it is unsafe to cross Redwood unless you're at a signal or some other crossing, right?
Yeah, and even then it's not completely safe because.
Agreed.
Agreed. Roundabout, it'll solve it.
Is there any appeal to putting pedestrian bridges or things like that over certain places?
There is,
Highways like
they're very expensive.
Right.
And there are a few in West Jordan, right? We've got several, we've got over Bangalore, we've got over 62, right? So there's some. Those, we can't obviously put those everywhere because they cost millions, right? And we try and put those in the highest pedestrian usage and near schools and things like that so that they get the most bang for the buck, right?
What about close to the transit-oriented locations?
Yeah, that's another great question. So that's a big focus of the state. The state has actually required that all cities do what they call a station area plan for all of the track stations, front runner stations, and BRT stations. And a big part of that focus is looking at connections to and from those transit stations. And that includes pedestrian safety and crossing locations and trails and bike lanes and everything to get in and out of those transit places safely. So that is being done in West Jordan. In fact, they have,
I was gonna say, they're getting ready to do a pedestrian crossing across Redwood Road at 7800 South. That's an upcoming project this year.
yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah, those are things that are being actively looked at and worked on right now. I just was gonna interrupt for just a second and let you know we'll officially jump into the Q&A piece now. There's, except for Sean, and then add a few people. These are who might answer your questions, just so you can see names and faces and who they belong with. And then I'll jump in and ask questions that pop in from those joining online.
Yes, sir.
To follow up on this, a pedestrian crossing at Redwood, what does that mean? Is it a bridge?
Yeah, over at the top.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what about addressing the issue of mid-block?
I think it's.
Because, the major intersections already, have lights, so that to some degree safe.
Yeah,
But mid-block, some of the cities, found their way to putting in where pedestrians can, use saying, marked, crossing lanes, but not a light, but just, the pedestrian pushes a button. And it only then does it, stop traffic or
yeah, so
slow
that's,
traffic.
yes, those are called a pedestrian hybrid beacon or a hawk signal. And yes, those are utilized quite often in those cases. So I could talk a lot about this. WCG is actually updating UDOT's pedestrian crosswalk policy right now.
Okay.
So for years, the policy has always been, if you don't have enough pedestrians crossing the road, you don't qualify for a crosswalk and associated improvements. Well, that's hard on places like Redwood, because you don't have enough pedestrians crossing because you'd get killed, right? So you'll never qualify though for that, right? So we're updating those criteria right now, and that'll take another 6 months or whatever it is with UDOT, right? So that is changing, and that is something that UDOT is concerned about, and they're actively looking at. So we're updating that criteria, so that will change. But I also want you to keep in mind, UDOT is not gonna put mid-block crossings at every block on Redwood Road.
Right, but it'd be nice like to put them by where the existing transit stops are. you know, bus
Yes,
stops.
and so it will be focused on key locations, right, where it's really needed, and it's not gonna impact millions of cars a day as someone.
Right, if there's no pedestrians, then it won't matter because nobody will use it, so it won't slow traffic down at all.
Right, so that is something that's actively being looked at.
One thing I just wanted to mention, as we're having kind of this Q&A dialogue, and this is an important concern, I just wanted to harken back to the website, that there's a specific comment form where you can place that pin and write something specific.
Yeah, and I do plan on doing that.
Good, because that's the most effective way for us to make sure that these comments are addressed. So we'll talk through them today, but that going in and filling out that comment form and putting in your questions or concerns or comments is gonna be what will get logged in the official addendum to the plan. So it's important to
So
do
what's
that.
the easiest way to get to that, those maps, because I see that the actual URL is
Where's
quite.
the website?
Yeah, it's a link, there's a link to it from the city website.
Okay.
So if you go to the West Jordan City website, you'll be able to find it there.
Do we have a QR or anything that they could scan to get to that,
I'm gonna
straight
make
to
one.
that?
Yeah, we'll pull it up for you. We had a couple questions, if you don't mind, I'll just jump in and we can kind of go back and forth. One question is the city looking into hiring private transportation for the west side, now that it is allowed? So it said, the question is the city looking into hiring private transportation for the west side?
So I think what that is, the state legislature passed a law that said you could do that, and then UTA can take that information and we can push it on to UTA later. So we've actually are kind of looking at that even before this came up, because we weren't prohibited from doing that. What this law does, it requires that UTA takes that information and use that in making their judgment whether they're going to take it over or not. And
So
they
that's still
provide
in
some
the-
funding for it too, I believe. So the answer is yes, but we don't have anything put together formally. We're still working with UTA on it.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question, maybe this is for the mayor, back to enforcement. We have all this traffic that's exploding, and yet we have lots of people who run red lights and lots of people who run stop signs, and it's dangerous as hell out there. I mean, I drive a full-size van and people pull out in front of me like they don't exist. What's the matching enforcement increase to go with all this traffic increase?
We continue to increase enforcement every budget year. We add additional police officers on there. And when police officers are not on no regular calls, then they're out doing traffic stops, calls. And if there's specific areas, our traffic engineer has a,
I was just gonna say, for those who are online, they may have a hard time hearing you, so when you ask your question in the room or you're answering, you just speak up a little bit.
okay, so these mics not active.
They are,
Oh,
they are,
They're hearing me now.
You just need to, just a little bit louder.
just a little bit.
So anyway, our traffic engineer, Mr. here, is putting up devices that tracks where some of the problems are and when the high incidences happen. And then he reports those to the PD, so they know when the most speeders are and what time of day that is. They target the time, so they're most projective of catching us. So it is something we're actively working on. And we'll continue to do so, because it continues to be a problem.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'll ask another one from online. It says, do the models consider the effects of induced demand? Building more lanes doesn't fix congestion, see Houston, Los Angeles, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why we also focus a lot on multimodal transportation, right? So the models include transit. They don't, at this point, include trails the travel demand model doesn't, but we are working, the MPOs are working on adding that to the models. Okay, so we don't have trails and bike lanes in there yet, but that is a real concern, right? And at some point you can't build your way out of congestion. And so you'll notice 90th South in 2050, we still show as failing, right? Because once we hit 7 lanes, we're not gonna go wider than that. It is what it is. And so people will find other routes and other ways to get there, whether that's bus or train, right, with Front Runner, different things like that. So yes, we are looking at multimodal. We're trying to make it as connected on the network as we can. A big focus of this master plan actually was building out a grid system or improving the grid system. One of the benefits of a grid system is that you have lots of options to choose from rather than a whole bunch of cul-de-sacs that feed onto one main road and that one main road gets congested, right? That doesn't work very well, although that's been kind of a standard pattern of development in some areas. That grid system works really smoothly for spreading traffic out and getting people lots of options to go places. And so West Jordan has a pretty good grid system and we're working to improve that and make more of those connections and improving connectivity. And then of course the multimodal aspect.
So this will probably also be for you, so I'll ask you, Jeremy. So this is some question about transit, and it mentions that they know you're not with UTA, so if you know, but the UTA's 5-year plan calls for new rapid transit or new rapid bus routes from 56 West to Old Bingham Highway, Track Station to downtown Salt Lake, etc. The 5-year plan calls for it to be ready in August 2027. Have you heard anything differently? Is it being pushed up? Do you know how
Yeah,
that's
so
progressing?
if I'm understanding the question correctly, that's the 5600 route. And that's the one that the RFP for designing that route just barely came out. And so, yes, that is moving forward right now and
And I would say that that's moving forward with a great sense of urgency right now,
yes,
because it's tied to the Mountain View corridor. And UDOT really wants to convert Mountain View corridor to a freeway, but part of their obligation to doing that is that they have to complete improvements to 5600 West. So they're moving forward with that much more urgently now than they have ever before.
yeah.
Related to that, and I haven't looked at the UDOT plan for Mountain View, but the intersections are like 9,000 and 7,800. When are those nominally supposed to be the overpasses? I guess they are.
They're currently, Mountain View corridor is becoming a full-fledged freeway.
Right.
They're currently working on the section to the south of us, which goes from Porter Rockwell and Bluffdale to Old Bingham Highway. They'll convert all of those from Old Bingham Highway to the north of us, but that's not, we don't know the exact time frame on that. That's probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 years out.
So that'll help a lot in east-west,
Yes,
especially as
for
west.
sure. No, and on this area to the north, all through West Jordan, it'll be full, interchanges, high capacity. It'll be good. Whereas to the south of us, they'll have parallel frontage roads, and you'll exit the freeway onto a frontage road, and then take a frontage road to your side street.
That's most of South Jordan. Right?
Yes.
That's why they have the driveways.
Yep.
There's a follow-up question on the one about the tracks and the M5600 West. Is there a way to find out where the stops will be along that? Do you know? Anyone? Just where, if there's a plan, if they've released where that rapid line is going to stop along 56.
Yeah.
Nestor,
I believe so.
Submit their information, I guess.
That would be, we'd have to find their
I have
map,
that.
but it's available, I believe.
Yeah, they did it's in the EIS, right?
Right.
Yeah, they just did a environmental impact statement, and so that information is available online, but Nestor here at the city said that if you reach out to him, he can point you in the right direction. Thanks, Jordan. Yes, over here.
Okay, this is a question that you absolutely do not know the answer to, but I want to know if it's being brought up at all. The legislature has been really starting to get on board with the concept of having the Olympics come back to Salt Lake City. And as transit becomes more and more important for getting people to and from different venues, and then the residents also need to get to different places so that volunteering can take place. It's a worldwide event. Are you guys starting to hear issues related to the Olympics that are spurring any kind of impetus to get some of these projects going? Or is that something that's still kind of in the works?
I'd say probably in the works. I haven't heard anything in specifically, but using the 2002 event as a model, we're kind of expecting that, and we'll be watching for those opportunities.
Because that'll be a great opportunity for us and for everybody in the whole valley to be able to take advantage of all of a sudden legislature going, hey, we're gonna put as much funding into this as we possibly can.
Right.
I will say, however, the Utility and City Towns meeting that we went to just, was that last week?
Yeah.
Week before, I'm trying to remember. They brought that up, and they were talking about funding for the areas that have venues there. And I brought up, what about us areas that don't have venues? We will need that as well. So I did remind them that, don't forget about us.
Good.
We start putting those in there.
Excellent.
Can we opt out as taxpayers?
Opt out?
Yeah, don't vote for your people who are up for reelection.
Yes. That's already in the cards.
Yes.
That's right.
Scott, I'm gonna ask you, but we'll see. This question is, will 70th South be widened from the airport westbound? 178th crosses Mountain View. 70th crosses Mountain View to Backus.
Airport westbound.
Yeah.
70th? Say that again, you mixed the two, so.
I did, I'm sorry.
70,
70th South, so will 70th South be widened from airport westbound when 70th South crosses Mountain View corridor and U-111? Is the question as written.
West of the airport.
I believe that is one of our master
Yeah.
plan projects.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
There's a portion where it's a,
It's like a two-lane road in the model.
right, it does need some widening. But it won't be widened out in additional lanes if they're talking about a 5-lane or more configuration.
70th is planned. 70th is planned as a phase 1 project to go over Mountain View. Then 78 is planned to be widened as a phase 1 project as well, through the Mountain View into the west. Yes, yes, it is planned to be widened. Does that answer the question?
And that answers the question. Yeah, there may be a follow-up. Okay, question, why was the speed limit on New Bingham Highway / Grizzly Way reduced?
Nestor can answer that one.
Nestor. So what speed limit on New Bingham Highway was reduced? They're wondering why.
We received a letter from the Federal Railroad Administration regarding safety near the railroad crossings. In order to comply with those regulations that were adopted by the federal government, we have to reduce the posted speed limit from 45 to 40 miles per hour or lower to improve the risk index for accidents at the railroad crossing. That is directly related to the quiet zone that we have adopted since 2011. Failure to comply with this regulation means we were going to have 146 trains a day with their horns for 15-20 seconds at each of the 17 crossings. So that was a requirement from the Federal Railroad Administration, and we just comply with their regulations so we can keep the quiet zone within West Jordan City.
For whatever it means, we got away with it for 12 years before they actually cracked down on us. So.
Fair. Question, I was just gonna make sure anyone ever. Okay. You mentioned multimodal. Are there any initiatives to a complete streets program similar to Salt Lake City, where each project must meet a multimodal design book? I see projects being built with no multimodal designs now. Sure, if you have it.
That's a good question. So I think the answer is yes and no. So no, there's not a specific complete streets criteria that they have to meet for every project. But the answer is yes, we are trying to incorporate those into the plans, right? So you'll notice our cross sections have bike lanes on them. We've got trails. We've got plans for transit and stuff. So we're trying to incorporate those complete street concepts. But no, it's not as driven or as criteria driven as Salt Lake City's.
But all our projects, I mean, we don't just do roads, we do roads. We're looking at sidewalks, bike lanes, pedestrians, crosswalks. That's all part of the design and planning for an individual project.
Thank you.
Hey, so this is a long one, with some comment with the question. So for decades, there has been discussion about significantly improved west side, east-west highways, similar to Van Winkle Expressway or Bangerter Highway, pre-limited access. Even a higher speed road like 114th South, but nothing has ever happened. It would take an expensive amount of taking, I assume right away taking, but really seems necessary. 90th South seems to be the best place for this. I know it's painful. UDOT took my parents home of 58 years, but it seems there's been nothing concrete planned. Has all regional discussion on this stopped?
No, it hasn't stopped. I mean, this is something we talked about several times. There's no good options that aren't painful, and so
Yeah, there's been multiple studies over the years. Some have recommended 90th as kind of a freeway or an expressway. And the overall feeling, both in the past and now, is that we don't want to buy out a whole row of homes or a whole, close all the businesses and stuff along 90th to make it a freeway, right? So the plan right now is not to do that for 90th. It is to widen to 7 lanes. But to keep it an arterial like it is now with signals and things like that. There are other studies. 126 is being studied right now with UDOT, and they looked at multiple different options to make that expressway or add some different things there. I don't think they've made their final decision yet, unless you're aware. So they are looking at that for 126. We both at the city, consultants, UDOT, I mean, this is an understood problem. This is something that is consistently being looked at. Problem is there's no easy solution. There's no clear one. So multiple different avenues are being explored, right? So things at 126, some winding on 90th. We even went and talked to the airport about 70th. So is there any way we can get through, go under, around, or over, through the airport? And there's just not a great, easy solution way to do that. So they're continuing to look at that. And like I said, there's different avenues or different focuses that are being looked at to help improve that east-west travel.
In relationship to that question, they asked if there's any desire to or plan to increase the speed on 90th when that is increased to 7 lanes. None that you're aware of.
My understanding is it would stay the same.
Yeah, that's gonna be a UDOT call, as far as we know.
It is a UDOT question. Okay. The roadway projects map shows Mountain View south of Old Bingham Highway being a phase 3 project, while north of there is a phase 2 project. That's the opposite of what you've told us. Can you clarify?
Yes, yes, that is a problem that the lines are overlapped. So the red line is underneath, that is phase 1, that is to convert it to a freeway. The purple line is on top, and so we need to fix that so they're side by side and not coming up. The purple line is phase 3, where they plan to add an HOV lane to Mountain View. So it'll be a freeway first, that's happening now, they're working on that now. And then between 2040 and 2050, they're gonna add an HOV lane in the future. So there's 2 projects on Mountain View, and that's why it's showing up as phase 3, because the red line's covered up. So good point though. We need to fix that so they're side by side.
Okay, we, just as a time notification, we're gonna try and wrap up at around 7:15. So we'll keep answering questions until then. If you have a question after that point, make sure you hop on, ask that question and comment on the website. Was there a question in here? Yes. We'll start with you and then in the red shirt.
At least part of South Jordan has adopted this VIA system.
Yes.
And I'm curious, because we don't have bus routes and we want transportation, has West Jordan looked at something like that? I have no idea whether it's cost effective or not.
Yeah, so VIA is
Like the
UTA,
first
so
last
UTA runs it, and that was kind of as a response to saying, hey, the Southwest Quadrant doesn't have enough transit, right? And so they said, well, we're gonna try this via kind of an Uber-like service that UTA runs. In my understanding, and maybe Mayor Nick can correct me on this, but my understanding is that is expanding, and then it's going all the way up to 62nd, or is it 70th?
I'm not sure the specific.
I think it's almost all of West Jordan. The plan is to expand that so that most of West Jordan can use that service.
It seems to be popular, that's why I asked.
Yeah, I think it's getting used and I think it's, yeah, a good thing. So it's been successful enough that they are expanding.
In the red shirt.
Okay, that was actually my question too, was about the micro transit.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it just seems like, you know, with this so few arterials that it's really hard, you know, to not have something like that be a solution because so many people in the neighborhoods live quite a significant block away from, you know, where one of the existing arterial bus routes is, you know, which are, I think, almost entirely just on the major state highways, the arterials, so.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's not gonna be one thing that solves transportation problems, right? So we need to look at it from multiple different avenues.
That's definitely my case, you know, I drive when I prefer to ride transit, but it's that last mile issue, you know, I'm a bit too old to have a bike on board, you know.
Understood, that
Especially with,
via
you
service,
know,
I think is a good way to help make that last
Yes,
mile.
I'm actually looking, I'm actually, if that comes, I'll definitely be a user of it, I'll make a comment on that and also.
That's great.
Are we also integrating with zoning to reduce congestion? Bringing some gentle commercial closer to residential areas to reduce trips? See the new integrated development on the west side by gentle commercial, such as coffee shops, barber shops, etc. If we're not already doing so, I would support some added commercial. There are large spots in our community without commercial nearby.
That's a big yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're always trying to get more commercial in more of the more remote areas, not just in the main shopping centers.
Yeah, so what is the plan for 7800 South? And is it to be widened between Midvale and Bangerter? And then follow up to that, also why are buildings being allowed to be built so close to the roadway considering we have the issue with east-west congestion? I assume they mean because if they're going to widen it, why are we allowing building? So we're looking at the model now.
I'm not sure what area, we're actually working on a project right now to widen 7800 South from essentially from about 5600 West to Bacchus Highway or U111. And that'll start this summer. As far as
That one was the other way.
yeah, this other one, it's on our master plan for future widening, but that's gonna be on the long range plan.
So it is included in the plan, but not in the immediate future.
Right.
Between Midvale and Bangerter on 70.
On the 7800 that's currently in work, when you look at the website, it just says it's widening. There's no maps, there's no showing how it's gonna be widened. Is there anything available on that? I haven't
Like
really
a
heard
cross
of it, so.
section.
We're good, so that's actually, so the first phase of that project is about to wrap up, and that's the
Sewer.
yeah, sewer
No,
project that's
sure,
happening
but
through
the
there.
widening part.
Right, I'm getting to that, 1 second, sorry. So phase 2 is happening, that's the widening, and as we get that information, which is supposed to start soon, we'll post that on that
It's just
same
being
page.
finalized through UDOT's
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
UDOT's in control of that. project. We start bidding for contractors
Yeah, so
next month.
that information will be there. You're in the right
And we
spot.
will get that on the website.
Yeah.
Right.
And that'll be
Absolutely. Once
posted there.
everything's approved.
So to the second part of that question, this transportation master plan is helpful in conjunction with city code as far as setting the full widths of the alignment so we can keep businesses far enough back. So as we set that width and make sure that we make sure that businesses are properly offset.
This is a question, and this is the I think probably the last question online we'll be able to answer. It says, can you post the letter for the reduced speed on Copper Hills Parkway? Was there any pushback on the reduced speed? The crossing is rarely used. In fact, in the last 12 years since I've lived out here, I've never seen a train use that crossing. I actually thought it was
It's
not
at night.
used.
They just come at night. Yeah, they come at night.
It's a nighttime crossing.
Yeah, the people who live by that call me and tell me that it gets used.
What the mayor said is
It
that
comes down with
the
board.
people who live out there call it and tell them it gets used.
I'll test that. We're only a couple houses away.
We have time for one more question.
I arrived late, so I apologize, it's been spoken to already, but South Jordan has plans to convert canal access roads into multi-use paths. Is there anything in the works for doing the same with the canals as they come into West Jordan?
Lester,
Yes.
take it away, see, tell them.
For Canal Road.
No.
We are looking into different options to make that road safer. Right now, we have an open ditch.
No, he's not talking about the canal road, he's talking about making roads near canals into bike trails.
All the
and
maintenance
paths.
roads.
The
Yeah.
maintenance roads along the canals, make them multi-use road.
That is on our active transportation plan, but it requires a lot of future work. So yes, it is a plan. Getting there is gonna involve some real effort.
We're looking at funding sources and things, but it is in our plans to do.
Is it, in terms of funding, sorry, just to follow up, is it significantly more difficult than funding widening 90th for instance?
No, it would be less than widening 90th. 90th would be a very expensive project. Creating these canal trails, it would be mostly working with the canal companies. And then, yeah, we'd still need to find some funding.
Okay. It's true. Walking.
Right. Those are important to us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll say that's the end of our Q&A for now. Reiterate that if you have comments, questions, concerns, we want to hear about them. You can access the information on the city's website and get to the story map site we were sharing today. Here's a QR code for those of you in the room. If you want to take a picture of that or scan it now, you can get directly to that information. Those of you who are joining us online, we shared that link in the chat, so you can get to it from there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Mayor, did you want to say anything else before we conclude?
Thanks for coming, and if you think something later on, make sure you send the information over to us. And it's totally not related to this or something else. Feel free to email me or call me if you want. I've got some cards available, or you can get my information off the website. Thank you for being part of West Jordan.
Thank you. Appreciate you all for coming.